Greetings, fellow Salt and Saucers, and welcome to another video on mostly-ish solo RPGs. Okay, usually I try to focus on solo RPGs because there's a lot of RPGs that are solo designed, that are excellent, that are fun, easy to get into, and why burden yourself with modifying extensively a rule set if you don't have to and you can just pick something up and play. That's usually my approach to role-playing alone. That says, Cottages and Cerberus is technically a multiplayer game. That said, it caught my attention, admittedly early on, because, it's about cottagecore and monster hunting. So it's very cool. The theme to me enthralled. I listened to a podcast introducing its core mechanics back when it was on Kickstarter. I wanted it so bad. But then I'm like, no, it's multiplayer. You don't do multiplayer. Put it down. Don't do the thing. So a year later now, it's out on the shelf. I saw it at my online retailer of choice, Board Game Bliss, in case you're curious. Anyway, and there it was. And then I'm like, you know what? Why not just treat myself a little? I'm curious. And probably I'll be able to make something out of it. And then I did the thing that I think gamers do all the time, always, is tell ourselves that, someday or a point I'll be able to play it and it'll be worthwhile, even though I'm fairly certain I will never get this to a table with other people. I'm allowed to play it myself, right? Anyway, so this is why I'm here, with Cottages and Cerberus in my hand. And why I'm making a video out of it is because it actually translated to a solo experience so much more easily, seamlessly than I expected. And it was so fun that I just felt it needed a coverage. I think it's a worthwhile to consider it playing solo, provided that it's not, perhaps your first. I mean, maybe you feel comfortable. Again, if you have a lot of GM experience and you're, comfortable calibrating things here and there, that will probably be a non-issue. Otherwise, maybe just get your bearings around the concept of solo roleplay first. But if you've played a couple, honestly, and you're comfortable sort of making cuffs on the fly, you're not too attached, or you don't feel cheap tweaking things to make it work in your system, then, oh my God, is this fun. Okay, so we'll talk about the game now that I've done this longest intro in a history of time. So this game is basically cottagecore and monster slaying, inspired by cozy games with a dash of monster slaying action, easy to learn, mechanical depth, crafting system. The health system works on spoon, which is inspired by the spoon theory. I don't know if, you may or may not be familiar with it, but I guess the parallel is basically that everything you do uses up your spoon, which is basically your energy or your capacity. So it could be physical or mental spoons, basically. So that was interesting to me because the way you regain spoons, I mean, there's of course the usual healing spell and stuff, but you can also just do something like self-care-ish and then you get spoons back, which again ties in with the cottage core. And I'll explain sort of what I mean by that. But basically this game there's a lot of fighting in it. There's a fair bit of fighting in it. But its goal is actually just to have a cottage. So I don't know. I don't play a lot of video games, but I have spent a lot of time on Stardew Valley. And this to me is basically Stardew Valley, the board game, the tabletop role-playing game. Basically it starts with mostly you want to get your farm going, get the things going, make your little home cozy, improve your surroundings. Every now and then you have to go into a cave to get some rocks or something, and then you kill something that's bad and evil. That's kind of how this feels to me, which maybe is why I am so enthused with it. But anyway, I'll show it to you. You can decide for yourself what you think. So, as an aside, it's such a pretty package. I really, really like this book itself. I like its size. I like its thoroughness. I like the content. I like the art. Just so as a package, it is a complete package in terms of role-playing game. Again, it says 300 pages, 50 monsters. I didn't count, but I'm assuming that's accurate. There's a lot in here. There's a lot of content, and it's not, there's a lot of tables to solo for yourself, because again, that's something that's very important when role-playing for yourself, is being able to get some inspiration quick. So, you have how to generate NPCs with names and, species, and you have traits. They have random mushrooms or fishes or birds you can find. Random flowers, they have special effects, butterflies. Again, I purposefully did not read too much of these because I like to use them to generate, so I want to surprise myself. So, but there's lots of table. But let's begin in the beginning with the character creation. Do I start with character creation or mechanics? I'm asking myself on video. You'd think I would figure this out before I start recording, but hey, this is me. Actually, you know what? Let's start with how to resolve checks, because then I can explain better what the character creation works. So in this game, you have 4 main statistics: charms, alchemy, lore, and muscle. So charm is charisma, thinkish, like make friends, convince people, that sort of thing. Alchemy is everything magical. Lore is general knowledge and the ability to apply it to something. So anything researchy, that sort of thing. Muscle is, of course, physical driven. So if you're fighting with a sword, muscle. If you're casting a spell, alchemy. Charm, charming people, making things happen, intimidating. Lore is everything in between that makes you know things and be able to translate that into action. So when you make a check, you will use your score, which in the beginning ranges from 1 to 4 for every one of them. You roll that number of d6s, so this runs on a d6 pool. So in the beginning, your strongest stacks is likely to be a 4, so you would roll it. And before you roll, you would have what do you call this in here? We call the team target number, I think is what it stands for. The target number, so everything you roll at or above is a success. So for example, if I say I'm rolling, I don't know, I'm trying to convince someone to give me something. They kind of like me anyway, so I'll make it a TN3. It's not a big item anyway, so TN3. And everything that is above or at, so these 2 results, for example, meet, this is fail. So if you have 0 dice that meets, you just fail your check. If you have 1 or 2, you can spend a spoon, which again is your health, to turn it into a success. If you would have had 3, it's a success. If you have 4, then you have a super success, so you get 1 spoon back for 1, and second, you usually get a little extra bonus. So in combat, you do 1 extra damage, for example. So it's a very simple check system. It's actually translates very well. I really actually kind of like it. I'm a bit surprised because I've ran dice pool system. I didn't enjoy as much as this one. This works really well. In a multiplayer game, people can help you to add a die to your roll. In a solo game, I have a pet that can do that for me and loan me a dice for some checks. But anyway, so that's the resolution system. And every character begins at level 1. This is kind of a fun character sheets. I'll walk through it, so it might look a bit busy, but bear with me. So name, title, pronouns, level, basic stuff, attributes. So that's where your charm, alchemy, lore, or muscle would go in. So again, you would start with a 1, 2, 3, 4 distribution. So your strongest attribute would get a 4, your weakest would get a 1. So again, with a 1 or 2 dice score, if you run a check on your own, you know you can't succeed without spoons. You may not succeed at all, but you definitely cannot do it without spoon. At 3, you have a chance of succeeding, without spending any spoon. At 4, you have a chance of a super success. So that gives you an idea. So there are things you're just not that great at. Abilities, I will show you in a minute, but basically in the beginning, you would pick 3 distinct abilities. You would begin with 10 spoons. And vibes is you begin with 1 of them, which is how you regain spoons. They usually... I'll show you some example in a minute, but they're usually not something that happens in combat. It's something you would do outside of combat or as a result of the outcome of combat. Again, I'll give you some example in a minute. And then equipment, you are able to begin with 1 equipment slot unlocked. That's usually 1 magic item, like a significant magic item, or a pet. Pets are helpful in many, many ways. I'll show you in a minute. But that's how it starts. And as you level up, basically, you have the choice of either adding abilities. So you can see here, as you get level, you can either choose to increase this. You can unlock an equipment spot. You can have some additional spoon. You can add a vibe. You can increase some of your base stats. So the level up is very interesting because there's a lot of options. And this is one thing I really, really like about this game, particularly like about this game, is that there's no build. Like you don't have, they do, in case you're not into generating your own character, they do have some pre-gen characters you can use. So for example, here they have a magic users, they have the suggested starting ability and whatever else. So they do have pre-generated, characters if that's something you're into. I personally like to make my own because I always find that the archetypical characters are just, a little one-dimensional. So this is very cool. Like, your race is also just thematic. You can do anything you want to do. So basically, you begin the game, everybody's got 10 spoon, everyone can choose who they want to be, what they want to grow up as, kind of thing. So I'll show you, and now this is where it might get a bit overwhelming, but I want to show you the extent of the abilities available. So these are, for example, passive abilities. So some are, okay, so I'll give this one that I chose for my game, which was Beastmaster. Your pets gain +1 to all attributes. So again, because pets, let me find the pets. The pets can help you in things, and they have their own attribute. On average, they have a 2 dice in everything, which means they generally need to spend a spoon to have a chance at success. So for example, here's a pet example here, Shadow Kitty. The feline blends totally into the shadows. It would be very hard to find it if it was not for its large luminous eyes. So it's got 5 spoons, and 2 is its base stats. It's got some special powers. So Shadow Kitty gains +5 dice when attempting stealth. Also, the owner attempt stealth when the Shadow Kitty is in the same scene. The owner gets a +1 dice. And it can ambush also. So we can attack with +1 damage if we attack from being hidden. But for example, with the Beastmaster, all these stats turns into 3. So again, then my sidekick can have a chance at a success without spending spoon when making a roll. So that's an example of a passive ability. They have a lot, and some of them are paired because they're more situational. So you can get 2 of them for the price of 1. So for example, Agile is gain +1 muscle for checks that involve speed, agility, and dodging. But you could pair that with Chef, which is you gain +2 dice on cooking checks. So again, this is just sort of the options of the passive abilities, which generally gives you an advantage in specific situation. Power abilities, to me, again, playing solo where you kind of have to focus. And again, I'm not an expert at this game. Someone smarter than me could contradict me on this. They tend to be more, I don't know, I'll say role play abilities. Like, for example, you can talk to animals. You can detach limbs. They can float, levitate, and you have normal control over them. All limbs must stay within 50 feet of you. So a lot of these are not so much mechanical as story. I mean, there's some that affect mechanics, but most of them are story/role-playing opportunities. I think they're perhaps a bit more helpful in a multiplayer game where people are really fleshing out who they are. Solo, I did not dare spend my few ability points on something that did not give me a direct advantage in play, which takes me to the next abilities. They include spells. So again, everyone can always do a basic spell, which is an attack spell, so that's always an option. But then you can have different spells. So in addition, for example, here you could target one ally. Again, it's so useful, I suppose, but when you play alone, they can take an additional turn right now. Recharge 5, that's how long it takes for you to cast it again. But basically you can do that, or heal, so these are spells that you can use in play. Most of them don't actually require a check, so you basically use it as an action on your turn. I'm casting heal, then heal is cast. But some of them allow you to increase a regular spell. I'll see if I can find one in this, but yeah, that's kind of fun. Training, transform. Of course, now I can't find one. Anyway, there's some that basically let you turn a basic attack spell into, for example, a fire spell or something like that. So it kind of enhances your basic abilities. Action abilities, likewise, generally speaking, don't require, well, sometimes they require checks, sometimes they don't. So that usually describes the nits, but basically on your turn, instead of making attack, you can use an action. So in this case, for a double shot, when you make an attack with a ranged weapon, you can make a second attack against another target. So this is something you could do to attack twice as long as you don't attack the same person. So there's a lot to build. There's just a lot of options to focus on certain traits, to look into things. There's reaction ability. So example one that I found really helpful solo, because again, you have a limited number of action, is counterattack. So you can make a weapon attack against the monsters whenever they cause you to lose spoon. You're allowed one reaction per turn, so it's not like if you get attacks multiple times, you only get to do that once, but still very helpful in adding the damage output of play. Stance abilities, I didn't explore very much, to be honest, but basically you increase one stat for a scene, or as long as you want to be in the stance, I suppose, at the expense of other stats. So, I mean, it could be good if you're really trying to boost something. Vibes is how you regain points, spoons. Again, most of them tend to be role play opportunities again. So to take something I think fairly intuitive, we'll take the snacker. You love snacks a lot. Whenever you enjoy some snacks, you regain 1 spoon, once per scene. There's a lot of talk of scenes, what a scene is, what it isn't. Like basically, I think it's fairly intuitive. I don't really find it difficult. Like if you're at the cottage, making your cottage pretty, that's your scene. If you begin combat, the combat is the scene. If the combat is broken up because someone runs away, maybe it's a different scene. But, you know, you have to be comfortable with those kind of calls as you play. But I personally don't find it hard to know if I'm in a scene or in a different scene. But, you know, there'll be something else, Night Howl. So you gain 2 spoon each time you start a scene in the dark. So, again, these are not some things you'll necessarily use every session or every day as I framed it for myself of the game. But they're fun to have, they're thematic. And again, they're a way for you to be you and regain some energy. I talked about leveling up, but I didn't talk about how level up happens. And that's kind of interesting because you don't level up until your cottage levels up. So the purpose of this game, weirdly enough, is not for you to improve, it's for you to improve your cottage. So you improve your cottage by doing many things. So usually the game begins in cozy mode, your home in your lovely cottage, which this game walks you through how to describe your little cottage in the beginning. You can do some restorative activities. So you can begin by meditating in the morning or whatever it is you want to role play. You could be planning to have dinner with people in town, whatever. You could engage in some activities or upkeep of the cottage. And for example, if I decide that I'm gonna, do a spring cleaning top to bottom, then I would probably have to do a check. And they suggest a target number of 4. For cleaning, it'd probably be a muscle check. So depending on my stats, I would have to decide how many I roll. Maybe my pet would help me with it. I usually try to role play how the pet helps with that, because sometimes it doesn't really make sense that my phoenix helps me do dishes. But for example, when I was doing laundry and I could see the phoenix helping me put the laundry on the line to dry, for example. Other activities such as milking cows, so again, or generating things. So at some point I role-played myself into a chicken coop. I was actually in the process of role-playing myself into trying to befriend a Wily, which, would be tricky because it is a monster. But apparently he's got really soft fur. So I'm thinking, hey, if I can make him be my friend, maybe I could spin some of his fur and make some nice blankets for my cottage, which again, would generate what they call cozy points. So whenever you're taking care of your environment, making it better, what you get is cozy points, which then you use to level up your cottage. So, for example, if you're doing a task reward, so I'm dusting, and I did a success, but I had to spend some spoon, I get 1 cozy points for it. If it's a success, I get 3 cozy points for it. If I get a super success, it's 5. If I'm crafting something or making something, which could be cooking, it could be making an item, I'll talk about that in a minute. If you're using regular stuff or if you're using monster resource items, then you get different kinds of cozy points. And then when you get a certain amount of cozy points, you can level up your cottage. Find the page. Of course, I can't find it now. Story of my life. I have to say this book sometimes surprises me in where the information is found. There it is. Cozy rules. So cottage rank. So there's different progressions suggested for how many points it takes to rank up your cottage. I think I went with a fast progression because again, I'm the only person who can advance the cottage. If you have 4 people doing different tasks to up the cottage, then it's a bit easier to hit more cozy points. So I went with a fast progression myself, but there's lots of options on your playstyle. So for example, when I hit my first 10 cozy points, I rank to number 2. And then my cottage levels up, which unlocks some ability. At level 2 and every rank after, basically everyone in the cottage gets an extra spoon. So instead of having my 10 spoon maximum, now I have 12, and every other rank you get that. And the different ranks, you get different abilities. In addition, your character levels up. So to level up your character, you have to level up your cottage. To level up your cottage, you mostly have to do cozy activities. So that means that basically the monster hunting part of the game is not necessarily how you get better as a character. I mean, the way they frame it in here is basically you're chilling at home, looking at your house, thinking, how can I make this better? And you go like, you know what would look good? A like nice new carpet. And you know who's got great fur for a carpet? How about that stack of cats? You know, stack of cats would be good fur. Actually, stack of cats are super deadly and dangerous, so you probably make something more than a fur with it. But, you know, and then that is your inspiration to go hunting. I personally found that approach a little bit callous with regards to like, I need a new accessory for my home. I'm going to go kill something. And this book actually has a section specifically dedicated to that, which is basically like how to approach that particular aspect of the game so that you're comfortable with it. Of course, I'm not going to find it now. But basically, there was a lot of options. So, you know, maybe the monsters are all evil anyway. So, you know, whether you kill them now or you kill them later, you're going to have to kill them because they're going to come over you. Maybe, see, here it is, Ethics of Monsters. So they're just all evil. So in the story of your game and its narrative of it, you know, it's not so much you can get an accessory. It's actually so you can, you know, do your job as part of this village is to protect it. Slaying monsters, morally ambiguous. So in this case, maybe they're good for the ecosystem. Some of them could be bad. So you can see how that goes. And then there's the option of ethically sourced monster part. So basically, when they reach zero, they might shed the parts and then run away. So, you know, you can tweak that with your level of comfort. I think I mostly went with morally ambiguous situation. So in my game, some monsters, I purposefully, I'm telling the story, right? So I get to decide. Like, for example, my very first monster slay was a sunflower serpent, I think it's called. And, you know, it was growing in the schoolyard. So children were at risk of getting basically killed by this snake that is hiding and disguising itself as a sunflower. So it's also one of the easiest monsters according to this book. So it seemed like a good, you know, a good intro. So basically I just got to town. I just dropped my suitcase. You know, my Phoenix Ashes and I were just thinking about, you know, we should probably clean because this place is really dusty. When someone knocks on my door, it's a school teacher. And then I created him with a name and everything with the things. And he's explaining to me that he thinks there's a sunflower serpent that moved into the schoolyard amongst the other sunflowers there. So the way that the monsters are designed too is super, super fun and interesting for solo play. So you have their stats and the game comes with pre-suggestion of how to calibrate it based on party size. So one thing they say is health-wise it's designed for 4. So for one player, they say reduce 2 health points for each player that's not there. So for a solo player, this health will be reduced by 6. So this would be a 6 health sunflower serpent, which you'll explain why that sounds like very little, but I'll explain how the fighting goes. And like these fights are relatively short and they're pretty brutal. Like they don't go on for multiple, well, they'll go on for a couple rounds, but they don't, you'll die or you'll run out of spoon. You don't die in this game, you just run out of spoon. You have to narrate how that felt as a defeat. It doesn't feel low stakes to me though. I actually kind of like that I'm not gonna die, but that I have to come up with other way of living with defeat. But basically this points go down fast on the player and it's relatively slow for the players to hit the monster, which I think thematically makes sense actually. But anyway, so I would reduce the health by 6 because I'm alone. And then they say for the beginning, especially if you begin in level 1, to be fair, I began at level 2 because I wanted both a pet and a magic item to start with. I want to give myself a bit of a fighting chance. I don't regret that choice. But basically they say you can also go easy 1, which means, or easy 2, which means you reduce by 1 or 2 the target numbers. So speed is the target number you have to roll in order to hit it mostly with arrows or catch up to it if it's running away. Resist is its resistance to magic. So if you're trying to do a basic spell attack or something, you have a target number of 4. And hide is its hide. So basically if you're trying to hit it with a weapon, target number of 4. Again, playing with the easy roll, which I would recommend, especially in the early setup of your character, you can reduce that by 1 or 2 so that the target number is lower. So it increases your chance of doing a hit. So that's how it is. This is flavor text on what a sunflower serpent is. This game is kind of meant to be ran as a series of episodes where you begin in your cottage, you do a thing, then you have to go on a hunt for monsters. So the hunt is kind of cool. It, generally speaking, is sort of an intro scene. It's a build up to the fight. I don't always do the hunt part because sometimes the monster like is clearly in a baker's shop. That's how like the ruckus brought me over the monsters. They don't have to hunt it. In the case of my sunflower serpent hiding into the field of sunflower, I did thought it would be thematically appropriate to look for it. So then we look at it. The players will arrive in a field of giant sunflowers, and one of these sunflowers is actually the sunflower serpent in hiding. The serpent can turn its head to the sun and absorb solar ray, then release them on its foes. The serpent uses solar power, SP, to represent its stored solar energy. SP can only be gathered while it is sunny. As soon as the player in the field, the serpent begins charging up. The players have 3 attempts to find the snake, which is a TN of 6. After each attempt, the serpent gains 1d SP. So this will power up its attack later, basically. So you get there. I mean, I think, it's a TN 6. I think I call that a lore check. I use lore, I think, a bit more than the designer of the game seemed to have planned. Because sometimes they say, like, you're tracking something, and they'll say alchemy check. And I'm like, I think that's a lore check. Like, to me, it's like, you know how to track a thing more than you're using magic to track a thing. But again, maybe it's just because I'm role-playing it as more of a casual skill and not like using magic to find something. So anyway, in this case, I would probably decide that Ashes, my phoenix, is flying up above and circling to help me find it. So that would give me an extra dice. Then we would roll. And like, oh, look, I'm lucky I rolled 1 6. That means that at that point, I can choose to spend a spoon to win the check, or I can wait to succeed naturally. In this case, like, I'm not sure exactly what solar power does, but I know it's going to unleash upon me and I don't want it to build. So I'd probably say, I found the snake right away. Like, Ashes flying over did this. And then we would enter the battle part, which is this part here. So this is the way that the monster fight works is actually, I'll show you the diagram because it's unusual, in my opinion. I don't see that very often. But the monsters have an opener move. So that's always just used once at the very beginning of the fight. It makes its opener move. Usually that's pretty deadly and painful. Then the monster attacks. So basically you're likely to get hit twice before you even get a turn. So it has its opener. It has its monster action. Then you go as the player. If you have a pet, they go. And then the monster does its closer, which often, to be honest, is another attack. So again, that's what I mean by it's deadly. Like, these monsters will attack you. After the first round, then at least you don't have the opener. You just go back to monster action, yours, pet, and a round closer. And then it goes in a circle. So in this case, the opener is the sun head. For a brief second, the sunflower serpent's head shine bright in the sun. All characters take 1 damage, so there's a spoon gone. And the serpent gains 1d6 solar power. So then I would keep track of the fact it's got 1 of those. You would also want to know about its passive ability. So it can spend 4 solar power to gain an extra reaction. This ability can be used any number of times per turn. So again, this is something my serpent may want to do. Its reaction, if it takes fire damage, it gains double the damage it took as SP. So basically, if I'm trying to heat up the sunflower and I deal 1 point of damage, it's going to actually turn it into solar power and get 2 of them. Triggers. The attack deals damage to the serpent. So if the serpent has 2 solar power to spend, it can deal 2 damage to its attacker. So again, it's a reaction. So if I attack it and I do damage and he's got 2 SP, he can just boom me for 2 damage. But anyway. So we would begin here with the opener. 1 point of damage gets 1 SP. I know that he can spend it anytime to use an extra reaction. And then what I usually do in my play is that I go down the action every turn. So the first turn, it's action. So it does its opener. It does its action now. The sunflower serpent grabs a creature with its tail, dealing 1 damage. 1 spoon gone. The creature must make a TN3 muscle or be grabbed. So in the beginning, my situation was pretty bad because I actually started with 1 in muscle. Anyway, there's a special accessory in here that lets you use your charm to wield the blade. So I put my charm at 4 and my muscle at 1, thinking I would use to draw my charm to do the thing. I hadn't fully planned on having to do muscle checks to avoid being grabbed. So it's like, oh, well, learning moments. Anyway, but it's a TN3 and I rolled a 4. I can't succeed with just one die. But seeing as if I get grabbed, I'm going to have to spend my next turn getting ungrabbed. I decided to spend a spoon right now to save my action. Turn my 1 die success into a 3 die success, which is a success. So I didn't get grabbed. Yay. Now it's my turn. Rolling with all my charm, because again I have my magical blade. I roll 4 die, and my hide I would have lowered to 3 probably. Either way, I would only get 1 hit. Again, I need 3 for a success, but I probably would have spent a spoon again to hit its life by 1. So now my Sunflower Serpent is down to 1. It's down to 4, sorry, because it's 5, because it started at 6. And then Ashes would go, I won't explain how, but Ashes, when it does magic, can do 5. But knowing that, again, thematically I decided that Ashes damage would always be fire when it's magic, because it's a Phoenix. I made those random calls. So I probably say like, yeah, you know, Ashes is not gonna go like full fire on this guy. So he's probably gonna try to grab it with its talons. So we'll do the check using muscles instead. And then I would do it. So Ashes let me down the hard here. Did not get a TN4, so, 3, so it's a fail. Then a monster would get its closer. So it would gain 1d6 solar power. And then we turn back around with the next action, Solar Fang. So then dealing 2 damage or 5 damage if it spends. So then I get hit, then I go, etc. So I don't know, maybe that was too fast or too slow. I can't tell, I'm sorry. But I'm just trying to show that as you face an opponent, even having read its flavor text, which to be honest, I tended to read just so I could position the monsters in places that I wanted them in my story. So this is known to me as a character and as a GM, so I can kind of evolve the story. But all of this surprises me in play. Like I wouldn't have known, like from any of this, that fire would turn into SP, right? So any fire attacks I do just makes it stronger, for example. So this I would find out on the spot and go like, ah, bad, bad, bad. So again, the reaction I probably wouldn't have read until I hit it. So I would have said the serpent takes fire damage. Okay, so I'll keep that trigger in the back of my mind, and then I'll read what it does at the opportune moment. So to me, that made for fun, unpredictable fights, because there's a lot of things I don't know about what it does. The game, multiplayer or otherwise, does have mechanics for doing research on a monster. So there's mechanic for doing monster research. So before you go to a hunt, if you have time, if you're leisurely about it, you can research it, and there's rules for how to do that. There's rules on how to craft. So once you get a monster item, or you want to build furniture for your house or a chicken coop or something, it's not like very detailed rule. It's not as structured as a crafting system as, for example, the Protector's Memories, but it's still very good. And again, it's very focused on that aspect of the game. This game also has rules for sort of relationship tracking with NPCs. Now, they seem, well, based on how it's written, it seems that they suggest to keep that to basically, they called it friendship flower. But if one of the player character wants to build a special relationship with one NPC, again, maybe because of my Stardew Valley beginnings, but I personally really wanted to be able to build more like ongoing relationship, necessarily romantic, just like getting to know the people of town, because then to me that builds additional story opportunities as we get to know each other, and as I reward helping them, because as the friendship flower grow, basically you have an interaction with someone, you can do a charm roll, and every level gets increasingly difficult in your friendship level. If you are successful in the roll without spending spoon, not allowed to use spoons on this, then your relationship grows to level 2, level 3. You do get cottage points or cozy points for those friendships, so it goes to leveling up your cottage, therefore also your character, which I really like. This has some options of like gifts you can give PC, because again, you can't use spoons, right? So I started off pretty well with my charm of 4. So to go from like, level 1 friendship level, what you have to do is the level you're going to +1. So I had to roll a TN of 2. So it's, okay, now I didn't do it, but I did it the first time, like a TN of 2 on 4 dice is not that hard. And again, if Phoenix were to help me by being particularly cute at that moment, then we're good. You can also get additional dice to your roll if there's a thematic reason for it. So you gave them a present, you just help them out with a quest, something else that makes them more likely to want to get close to you. you can roll for that. So this is a rule that I really enjoy, again, in my role play, because I wanted to get more out of my NPCs in terms of, first of all, helping them helps me. It's not that I couldn't have done it without the mechanical incentives, but I found it helpful. So these are ideas of gifts you may want to give people. This is how you level up. I kind of talked about it. How to create the world. Monsters. Oh, this is a lot about monster calibration. So this is where I'll say basically monsters are designed for a party of 4. Every character beyond 4 increased by 2. Every character fewer than 4 decreased by 2 for the health. And now there's the rules for how to make them. This describe the different families and their difficulties. So this is where it says like these monsters, like my sunflower serpent or whatever, is in here as one of the easiest. So I started basically with the ones named as easiest. And then I moved on to other ones, which sometimes I had to go on easy 2 mode. So basically I decreased some of these stats by 2 for a target number. Yeah. So that's how it goes. Like there's a lot of monsters. They're very original and fun. And again, some of them I'm like, I don't feel comfortable giving you a bad roll. Like it's an interesting monsters. So then I role play, or I worked around, or I came upon them, but then managed to befriend them or convince them. And then later their lair was attacked by some other monster, so I helped them defeat that monster. And so there's a lot of options for how you approach this. The flavor text I found is very helpful, personally. I'm just flipping through so you can see the different kind of monsters. Like I'm not going to cover all of them. But there's a lot. There is a lot of monsters. And like I said, some of them are just kind of interesting. There's always a way to make them, to role play why they're completely undesirable. Oh, that guy was a pain in the ass. Looks like nothing, right? But he turns invisible and it makes him very hard to kill. Anyway, Vile Village is cool too. Anyway, so by reading the flavor text, generally speaking, I was able to situate the monster in my stories, like set up the next events for what was going to come, and work on it. Oh, see, that was the Toadstool Dragon. This the first one that I'm like, I can't possibly hunt this. I'll just read you flavor text of this guy in particular so you have an idea. Toadstool Dragon inhabits dense forest, damp, humid environments, often dwelling in the thickest part of humid forest. While most dragons are known for being solitary creatures, the Toadstool Dragon's partly fungal nature leads them to form tight-knit groups. They may spend years roaming the earth alone, but they will always return to these groups, called colonies. Toadstool dragons mate for life. They can often be seen perched together on a mossy log or rock formation. They do not lay eggs in a traditional sense. Instead, they release egg spores. When these spores land on decaying trees or rotting corpses, they will begin to consume the organism and grow into a small fungus. Over time, the fungus will grow until it is large enough to gain sentience, at which point it will become a baby toadstool dragon. Toadstool dragons are known for their love of collecting esoteric lore and resolving riddle. With a curious and inquisitive nature, these dragons spend most of their life away from the colonies, exploring the world around in search of hidden knowledge and mysteries to unravel. So with that backstory, I'm like, that doesn't sound like a monster to me. That sounds like someone I want to get to know. So when it was time for me to, actually I kind of stumbled upon it, I think. I'm trying to remember how I came upon it. But there was the hunt. I did do that because I had to find it. And then it did its opener and its action. So I began this by dealing damage, and then I, managed to roleplay / roll some lucky roll to try to get it to talk to me before it killed me, basically. And that's how we got to know each other and build, again, another NPC in my list. I also put it in my tracker of relationships because to me this Toadstool Dragon was a person in this particular role-playing moment. So yeah, I'm just trying to show you possibilities now. I'm probably just going on. Oh, I'll talk about the pets a bit. So they're also very original. They have different benefits. They have different stats, obviously. So we talked about Shadow Kitty. The Phoenix Chick is the one I went for mine because you can up some of its stats up to 4. Because again, the default is often 2, 2, 2, 2. You can see this Sharp Dog, for example, would start with 4. So pretty useful in the fight. I was looking for a sidekick that could help me survive monster battles. And Ashes actually had a very cool power, which is basically when its spoons turn to 0, so it's defeated, it turns into ashes. and a wave of fire is released. The ash is lit on fire. The fire hurts all foe, dealing 1 damage to them. Fire also replenishes allies. We eat like allies. So me get 1 spoon, boost 1. That means I get an extra die on my next roll. And at the start of next turn, the phoenix ashes constitute into a chick again, and the pet is restored to its full spoon. So basically, hey, it's a phoenix. But of course, like I'm not trying to off my baby phoenix. So in role playing, again, not necessarily thematically, but I describe how like sad it looked with no like feathers left and super tiny. And at the time, I was having a craftsperson make a perch for it, so that I taken measurements. So when I came back with a super tiny one, they're like, oh my God, it shrunk. It's not going to fit right. So we had to make some more adjustments. Anyway, this is my role-playing life. You don't need to hear all that. But they have very cute, very original little pets. So you have the penguin here. So stats, great alchemy. So if you want a casting sidekick. Very good at fishing too. Again, this is one of those activities you can do at your cottage. They are immune, and so is its owner to ice damage. And the penguin, its owner gained the glacier spell ability, so I could show you, but basically it's a bonus. There's some very cute one, like the duck. The duck has a charm of 4. So basically it helps you in swimming checks. It's super cute. So I get +1 charm just for owning it. Both the duck and its owner gain the maelstrom ability, again an ability. Flower mage, and the duck and its owner gain the flower blossom bloom ability. So again, it's probably the ability to make flowers bloom, quite literally. Mostly role playing, but still cool. There's a pet rock you can decorate, and then it does different things. Anyway, the creativity of these monsters and the pets. Oh, the teacup pig is like a little healer in your pocket. So once per session, the teacup pig can brew a magical tea in its belly. Target 1 ally, they regain 3 spoons. Or once per session, they can raise an aura of healing at the end of each turn. For the rest of the scene, each ally regains 1 spoon. There's a tiny Rex, there's a turtle. Anyway, the creativity in the pets, in the ability, in the monsters, turn this into a lovely, lovely experience that make it very easy to bounce off and get a story out of, I guess is what it comes down to. It's such a lovely product. Oh, baby mushroom dragon. Almost got that one because it's so cute. It's a baby mushroom dragon. Anyway, you can also have like an old plushie. Yeah, so much opportunity. Anyway, in case it's not clear, I really like this game. I would like to run it for people, like, you know, not just me one day. Like this actually looks really easy to run also in terms of mechanics. It's not hard. But it's got a lot of potential. It's got lots of ideas. You know, there's times where you feel like a fight. And again, the fights aren't super long. They're pretty snappy because you die fast. They're monsters. But they're interesting. The actions are interesting. Not just like, I roll for a hit with my sword. I do not hit. The monster hits, does not hit. Like these abilities are flavored. They hit, they will hit. So that's one thing too that I don't, and this is like my personal beef with roll to hit. I mean, in this case, there is technically a roll to hit because you could fail the check completely. It doesn't happen that often, if ever, honestly, if you're well prepared to. So it does happen, but it's not common. You have other abilities you can do. And I don't think it's happened once that both me and Ashes failed to hit the monster on the same turn. So you don't get story stalls, nothing progresses, options. And again, you don't die in this game. You run out of spoons. So basically, I was going to use bad language. You run out of foxes, or like instead of making it you run a life, you run out of care for this fight. And so, you know, you grab your phoenix and you just bolt. And that's it. That's what happens. But then you go home with the shame of it all. And maybe if this was a monster you needed to hit, so if you couldn't fight the serpent, then you'd have to roleplay how you're coming back the next day to deal with it. You know, so you would have to do the next thing. So yeah, so again, this tool, like very detailed instruction. Some things, you know, you have to decide for yourself, like how you're going to adjust the difficulty level. Like I said, like I started myself on level 2 because I wanted an extra leg up. Definitely lower the monster's health because otherwise you're like, if you can last 3 rounds, it's pretty good in this game because you get hit so much by the monster. But you know, there's good options. Like at one point I had to run a quest for the apothecary looking for a specific mushroom. Oh wait, no, that's how I meant the dragon actually. Yes, the apothecary needed something to cure someone, only gets found on this particular dragon. I didn't want to kill the dragon, but I needed the mushroom to save someone else, which is then I bargained some of my knowledge and stories in exchange for some of its mushrooms growing on its shoulder blade, I think I went with, you know. Anyway, lots of options. Very good, very cool, very original. Again, not a first solo RPG experience if you're entertaining doing it solo. Oh, sorry, I didn't talk about all the random events, but they also have like random table for cozy events, for example. So 2 villagers visit the cottage at different times in the day to share unsavory rumor about each other with the player. Secretly, each has a crush on the other. What do you do? So this is a cozy roleplay opportunity, right? So there's a lot of these, like just the cozy play, I think has 89 of them. So these are good options for you to advance. And again, it's also partially why I wanted to tie mechanical reward with developing relationship with the villagers. They also have travel events. So when you're traveling, there's not as many of them, but there's quite a few. You can tack it on when you're going places. So some days where I'm just having a chill day, where I'm going to the village to drop off a thing, that I might throw myself a little, you know, event to mix it up. So yeah. Anyway, I think that gives you a pretty good idea. I think I've gone on for super long about this game. I am sorry for the never-ending video. But I hope it gives you an idea of whether or not you think you would like it. Again, you are having a fight probably every session-ish. I mean, I've spent some session just doing regular things around the cottage / meeting with villagers, solving well-called petty problems. But it's really more about making the world a better place with the occasional slaying than, you know, slaying and necessarily, I mean, there's still the thing of like you kill something, you take its stuff or its body, and then you turn its body into stuff. Like, for example, my sunflower serpent, there's a recipe, quote unquote, at the end of this book on how to turn it into a lamp. So this poor snake got turned into a lamp. So I crafted it, gave me an extra college point in addition to what I gained. And narratively speaking now, basically I have a lamp, it can go on or off. So it lasts forever, really lights up the room. I didn't get a super success, so I mentioned that I didn't have a dimming option, so it's on or off, but that's my own thing. So, you know, that's one of those. Other people ended up as mats. I did ended up making a oven to make better bread, because I'm using bread a lot. I was actually hoping to use bread also to make friends with my Willy. But anyway, I'll stop talking about my game. You decide if you want to have your own. I found the character creation / growth interesting, not pigeonholed. Again, there's a lot of options. Perhaps it's easier to explore because they're very situational abilities, so you can't really lean super team in one specific archetype. But in between that, the pets, the magic items, I didn't really cover, but there's a lot of magic item opportunities. They're obviously quite powerful. Yeah, so here's the one I used, the Blade of the Princess. Beautiful blade is elegant but deadly, can use charm instead of muscle when making a weapons attack. Made me think of the Blade of the Roses in Baldur's Gate. The old Baldur's Gate, not the new one. Anyway, but you know, as an aside, I'm like, oh man, like nostalgia. I want to lean into that, which, you know, lean into my character creation. But they have other things like Crimson Nail Polish. When you deal damage using an unarmed attack or using a natural weapon such as claws, fang, etc., you can cause the target to bleed, bleed is basically recurring damage every turn. So it's pretty powerful. And if you mix that up with, say, a beast form where you turn into a beast, which gives you additional power, you know, that sort of thing. So you can ping different things and really make a cool build. You can supplement as you go. It's cool. I think I've said 3 times I was going to stop talking. So I think I'll do it for real now. I'm sorry for keeping you. Thanks for watching if you made it this far, and hopefully gives you a good idea as to whether or not you'd like to consider Cottages and Cerberus as a solo role-playing experience. Have a great day.